Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes. Hey, this is Mike with the Quivercast, brought to you by quiverbuilder.com, where you buy, sell, surf. Good morning, everybody. This is Mike here at Quivercast, doing a live broadcast on location at the cliffs overlooking beautiful Carlsbad, California. And today I have a
surf detective
here, and we're going to interview him about surfing, of course. All right, so you already told us you're Mr. Surf Detective.
Well, not Mr., just surf detective.
Just surf detective.
Yeah.
So when did you start surfing?
65.
In 1965. And where was that at? What area?
Redondo Beach.
Redondo
Born
Beach.
and raised in Redondo Beach.
For how many years did you surf Redondo Beach?
65 to 71.
And have you consistently surfed since 65?
Yeah, except for accidents and playing Army for 6 months.
Oh, all right. And tell us about the waves growing up. How were the waves in Redondo Beach?
Trashy, like we had today. Nasty little waves. If we got any kind of wave at all, we were just like so happy. But it was just closed out waves, stuff you practice kickouts on and stuff.
What kind of board were you riding at the time?
First one was probably about a 30-pound Bing. It's called a catamaran. Catamacave. It was like the first thing with channels in it, but instead of channels, it had like the big sides right at the rail, so kind of formed like a channel. But
really,
yeah, it was a trippy board. It was really cool. I think it was 3 stringers, one in the center, then like a 2 offset to the right of it.
To the right of it?
Yeah, it was really weird. Yeah.
And how big was that board?
10 foot. Everything then was kind of 10 foot.
Single fin? How was the fin on that thing?
God, I don't remember what kind of fin. They were all glassed in. We didn't have any boxes then.
Were like those huge, I don't know what you call them, the big wide, like the traditional
No, it wasn't.
longboard?
Let me think. No, this one was, I think maybe like they first started going to like a little bit narrower fin, not a like a speed fin, but something kind of in between. But it wasn't like that half moon one.
And was this a used board or a new board? How'd you
No,
get
it was
this
a used board.
Where'd you buy it at? One of your
Bing
buddies?
surfboards. No.
Oh, you went to Bing?
Yeah, my dad bought it for me.
Oh, really?
Because I was only like, what, 6th grade, something like that.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah, 6th grade.
in the crew of you guys surfing, were you out there, did you make friends surfing, or did all your friends get boards at the same time?
No, what happened is my dad actually paid our neighbor. He surfed for Rick Surfboards. He paid him to give me surf lessons.
Really?
Yeah, it was great because he was like well respected down there at Knob Hill, it was called. And so
And what was his name? Do you remember?
I can't remember. Yeah, that was so long ago. Yeah,
Okay.
but that was cool. Good guy.
And are you stoked you grew up in Redondo, and have you been back recently at all?
Redondo was great as a kid, and then it got destroyed. But when I was young, it was like just us surfers and then a bunch of old people. And then they knocked down all the houses along the esplanade there and put up all condominiums, and then it got destroyed. That's why I wanted to leave.
And was everyone riding a Bing, or what were the other boards people
No,
were riding?
probably the main was Bing, and Jacobs was huge. Jacobs and Bing were like the two. It was you want one?
No, I'm good.
Let's see. I mean, Dewey Weber was up there. Rick Surfboards. I ended up, I think, surfing a lot of Rick Surfboards towards the end before I left.
Okay.
But those were like the big 3. Dewey Weber was kind of a little bit further up. He was more towards like Santa Monica area.
Okay. All right. So tell us a good surf story. You don't have to be a real long one, just a nice...
Yeah.
You have any?
Yeah, good. This is a good one. This is like, I've only almost drowned 2 times. This is pre-leash days, and this was at the Cove, and
Up in, like, above
Palos
Haggerty's?
Verdes. Around from Haggerty's, right there in Palos Verdes. And we went out like maybe about 2 hours before it got dark, and right as it was getting dark, it just kept building and building and building. Finally got like double overhead, and one big set closed out the entire cove from indicator all the way to the other side. And wiped about 10 of us out. So nobody had their boards, and we were like, okay, stay together, it's getting dark. And they're just on the inside set all 10 of our boards just hanging out there. But we just kept taking one after another on the head, and that was like, we're all like thinking we're gonna die. But it was actually really fun. Once we got in, we're all like, oh, your board's over here, your board's over there. It was pretty funny.
And what kind of like time of the year was that?
Right around now, probably almost December, freezing cold.
Freezing, no wetsuit or wetsuit?
Then I think we had like Dive and Surf had just come out with that, or Body Glove. Well, it was called Dive and Surf, wasn't called Body Glove then, because all they made was diving wetsuits, but they made those beaver tails. So I think we all had beaver tail and trunks on then.
Yeah, so you're just numb,
Freezing.
especially in the water.
Freezing. You're
Probably
still freezing.
60 degrees or less.
But before that, I mean, for the wetsuits, we would just like wear windbreakers.
Woo! So what year do you think the dive and surf came into business when you guys started getting wetsuits and beach?
Well, I mean, they were in business for a long time. I think they probably started in the real early 60s or late 50s, making diving suits.
Okay.
So I want to think that it was around 60, probably right when I started, 65, then maybe 66 or something, 67. That's when they started. Well, they still weren't surf suits. They were still just wetsuits with a beaver tail.
Awesome. So everybody, that was a long story short with Mr. Surf Detective. I'm sorry, Surf Detective.
Yeah, just
All right.
Surf Detective.
We're going to move on to the next segment, which is what's currently under your feet, Mr. Detective?
Everything.
Surf Detective.
Everything. It's like, I think my shortest board is 6'4" right now. And I actually had an 11-foot Mickey Munoz just to deal with the COVID crowds, but I sold that. So everything in between. Today I rode a 8'8", real 17-inch nose, 17-inch tail, 21.5 inches wide. Kind of a Phil Edwards nose, but with a really wide tail.
Is today what'd you ride all summer? It's been pretty small this summer.
Probably
Is that
something.
the board?
No, something different every day.
Really?
It's like, yeah.
So you just check the surf and then pick your board, or do you just grab a board and then it is what it is?
No, I try to think about what it was, what it's going to be like and stuff. I mean, I've been riding this ridiculous foam board, just kind of, in fact, I'm going to spray kook on the bottom of that big white thing because it's actually, it's made by, what's it called? The ones from Costco? Wave Storm?
Wave Storms?
Yeah, it's made by Wave Storm, but it's a kid's stand-up paddle board. It's 25 inches wide and it's 8 foot. It's going to be my anti-COVID board.
Anti-COVID. With that being just a little side note, I would like your opinion on wave storms, and have they ruined surfing?
What ruined surfing was COVID.
Because it's
Those
so
guys
crowded?
those guys would have got friggin' pieces of plywood to come out and go surfing. Yeah, they didn't care.
So
Just that was
anybody,
the cheapest.
and that's because maybe there was nothing else to do in California?
Yeah, all the little jocks and shit all of a sudden wanted to become surfers because they, you couldn't do any team sports. So everybody in the world was out
So
here.
they had to get some exercise and decided to hit the ocean.
Yeah.
Even though they played football and never surfed a day in their life.
It's the most frustrating time of my whole life surfing was this year.
So 65 to 2020, how many years of surfing is that? Let's do the math.
35, 55.
55 years of surfing, and this last 6 months has been the worst you've ever seen.
The worst. I'm like such a mellow surfer, and this last time that I went out on that anti-kook board, I ran into, on purpose, 6 people just because I was so mad. I go, okay, I can't take it anymore. I didn't run into like them. I would like nick their board because everyone would just keep taking off. They think it's like
no looking behind, no etiquette.
no, you just take off because you see somebody else taking off. So after you kind of clear away, then you can finally start surfing for a while.
Yep, it is packed. So, what was in the 55 years of surfing, what was your favorite all-time board? Or do you have one or two that you would do, like, that was it?
Back then, I think because nose riding
It
was
doesn't
a
have to be
big
back
deal.
then, it could be yesterday.
Yeah, but it was like, because it was nose riding time, it was my Dewey Weber Performer. It was called the Super Scoop Performer, which I actually have one now in my garage. It was 1967. That was like my third longboard.
Was the third one you ever had?
Yeah, third new longboard, I should say.
Okay. And what was so special about that board? And what were the dimensions?
10-foot, and I think they were. It was like they didn't. The blanks then, well, although they used Walker foam, the blanks I think was wide as you could get were 21, but they put this big foam strip in the middle of it. It was a T-band. So it had 2 redwoods on the outside. Anyways, it ended up making the blank almost 23 inches wide. And you couldn't pearl the board. I mean, you could just jump up and down on the nose. So it was like an incredible nose rider. But as soon as I got that board, started getting shorter.
So how was the shortboard revolution? Were you involved in that?
It was crazy. My first shortboard was a 9.1 Corky Caro mini model. Came all the way down to get it from Hobie. And at 9.1, everybody's going, that's way too short. And then the next one was called the Super Mini, and it was 8.11. Everybody thought I was nuts for getting that small of a board. So we just went down gradually.
So who do you think started that?
Mm.
In your area, who was the guy that was ripping out there and riding a shorter board than everyone else? That you guys said I have to get.
Probably the one that went the shortest and ripped the hardest was Mike Purpose, and he came back from Australia with one of those huge V bottoms. Like maybe the tail was 15 inches wide, and the actual V was probably 6 inches deep. I mean, it was just a full V. And I remember he came to our surf spot one time. And we're like, "What the hell is he riding?" And so I think that's made the big jump from the 8-foot down to the 7-foot range.
Which is a lot.
A lot. I mean, nobody was riding 7-foot, so it might not have been. No, it was probably 7-foot. Yeah, it was probably 7-foot, 7.2.
And that was in Redondo area.
Yeah, that was Mike Purpose. That was when things really started dropping.
And then from there, you just took off. Because when I met you years ago, probably I don't know how long, 15 years or 20 years ago, I saw you out here on a shortboard. And you were ripping. So you kind of always went more shortboard and longboard more for fun?
Yeah, I wasn't even going to go to longboard. I would never go to 6 foot. Every one of my boards was 5'11" and 3/4. I went when I was fully into the shortboard. And one time Donald Takayama says, "Oh man, you got to try a longboard." I'm like, "Go no way, man! That's ruining surfing. You got all these guys coming back out here that shouldn't even be surfing anymore, and they're riding longboards." He goes, "But you got to try one." And so he made me this, I think it was 9.6, and it was really fun. I mean, I'm like going, okay, this is really fun.
Do you have that board today?
No, that was kind of like the second destruction of surfing was when the longboards got popular again.
And cause I remember in the 80s, no one run a longboard.
Oh, yeah.
When I was starting to surf, there was just shortboards. And then it's like I blinked my eyes, and they had all these old men on longboards that used to surf in the 60s that didn't surf for 20 years. And they're still, some of them are still alive, and they're still trying to surf. And it's like, you never got it back.
Yeah, if the longboards didn't come back in, it would be a way better
environment.
Yeah, for surfing, for shortboarders. I mean, now half the time you might as well not even take your shortboard out. You're getting these weird shortboards to make up for trying to paddle against the longboards. So
that's very true. And so the final question here on Quivercast with Surf Detective, just Surf Detective, is if you could get anything in the future, any board you could, magic board, what board would you pick? Not a board you've ever ridden before. Like, is there something that I gotta have this board? Or maybe a shaper that's passed away.
No, I don't feel that. Not really, not at all. I would like to be able to get back into riding a twin fin, because I think that was like one of the most, other than the thruster, I think twin fin was like the most fun time in shortboards. But you got to ride them so short. I mean, my twin fins were all 5'11", and up to 5'11 and 3/4. It's like if you get them too long, they just don't do the same thing.
So is there
magic
a shaper?
Twin fin? No, I don't really have a certain shaper that I like more than anybody else.
More like a fish twin fin, or more like a...
No, traditional, kind of like a Mark Richards style, but maybe like a double bump swallowtail type thing. Yeah, in fact, one of the most fun boards I had was a McCoy, and it was really? Yeah, it was a fish. It was like
they were super pointy on the nose, but wide on the tail, right?
Yeah, they were. The wide point was behind center.
Yeah.
Yeah, which wasn't like the traditional fish. Traditional fish, it was
it was wide
12
up
inches
up.
up. Yeah, 6 inches up. This was actually right underneath your feet.
So you would like something similar to that?
Yeah, I don't even know if I could surf something like that, at least especially with all the longboarders out here. I would like to have something like that on good waves, good warm water where you're flexible.
Yep. Okay, well, so that's the end of the podcast this evening, or this afternoon, I should say. And thank you, everyone, for joining us here at Quivercast, and that was what's currently under your feet. Until next time, don't forget to stop by quiverbuilder.com and check out all the boards that people are posting. You might find your magic board there. Thank you. Thanks again for listening. If you like this episode, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. And don't forget to visit quiverbuilder.com where you'll find your next magic board. I'll see you in the lineup. Hey, you guys, Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic, numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip from the original print. You will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production, all hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.